strange sound? Is it strange because there's a compressor in the background? And hammering? Is it strange to anybody else? No, I can't hear you, Jim, but is it okay? What the hell? It's all right. There's a noise in the background here, Sherry. In just a second, it'll stop. We're having a new roof put on. So there's a compressor going right now, an air compressor. Kind of like a hum. And I can't hear you. I can't hear anybody. There, the compressor just stopped. It's another moment of deep samadhi. Here we are. The compressor is gone. Well, I will mess with trying to hear you after. But for now, oh, I remember reading this last summer sometime. I'll share it with you again. I'm Robert Beatty. I had one of those nights of deep dreams and sense of mission and purpose, and I got up in the middle of the night and sat for an hour. It's wonderful to see you. How extraordinary to be alive again, or still, and be able to walk and breathe and have a little playful banter with the people working on the roof. Gosh, I wish I spoke Spanish. They're so fast. They're amazing. They work really hard. So, this is a broadcast of the Portland Insight Meditation Community. It is Wednesday, the 21st of July. Good grief, 2021. I am in Portland, Oregon, the real Portland. So, I don't know who wrote this. It's one of those things that appeared. A young woman goes to the laundromat and puts in a load of laundry. When it is done, she puts her clothes in the dryer and sits next to an old lady who is mumbling. She realizes the woman is not mumbling. She is actually praying, offering up a prayer mantra of some kind that she cannot quite discern. And so she sits with her. So she sits with her for a while, and then this lady gives her a card that says, "You might be wondering why I'm here. I lost my son in Vietnam War, and this is where he used to do his laundry, and so I come here to pray for him." The young woman came at the same time each week and would sit with the old lady way past the time the laundry was finished. One day, the woman who was doing the silent witnessing found the older woman to not be there. Over the weeks, she realized she was no longer coming back. Then one day, another woman showed up. She was much younger and well-dressed and was looking around for somebody. They struck up a conversation, and it turns out that this was the daughter of the old lady who had been praying for her son. The mother had asked her daughter to give a note to the woman who had been sitting silently with her. In the beginning, when I came to this place, I came in sorrow. I sat and remembered my boy and prayed. People cast glances my way and acted as if I were a bit crazy. I sat in the same place he sat and prayed that he would know I love him still, and that I was so proud to be his mother. One day you came and sat beside me. As the time went by, you continued to come. I said my prayers in your presence. I wondered how you could understand, let alone decipher what I was saying. Somehow, though, you understood. In this life, I try to be good, to be someone who others can look up to, and I feel that my intentions were always to assist and never to harm anyone. You asked me for nothing, and you gave me something that I will carry until I leave this earth. You gave me acceptance and respect and treated me with a gentle regard for the person I was. What you may not realize was that coming here became a time I truly looked forward to. I looked forward to meeting you, dear friend. I never even knew your name. I'm going to meet my son very soon. I wanted to write this while my mind was clear and my daughter Alice could carry my wishes to you. Your presence and acceptance has meant so much to me. No one has ever been so kind without expecting something in return. You gave me the priceless gift of acceptance and time spent with an old lady that others had decided was sick. I will forever be in your debt, and you will forever be in my heart. We have the opportunity to sit with ourselves and each other, to be present, to receive the present moment together, like communion. When I said that word communion, it reminded me of Father Bernard, the abbot, long deceased, of the Trappist Abbey in Lafayette. He and Robert Aitken Roshi, the first American Roshi, Robert Aitken was captured by the Japanese during World War II as a young man and taken to Japan. And he fell in love with Japanese culture and became a Zen Roshi. Imagine that. But I met Father Bernard because this was a Zen Catholic retreat. And he introduced me to the Catholic mystics who I'd never heard of. And he also helped me a lot with my Catholic childhood. And one thing he did, he encouraged me to forgive the priest of my childhood, Father Durnan, the alcoholic priest, to forgive him because he had a grade 2 spiritual education. He was trained to be a parish priest, not a mystic. But anyway, my point here with communion, he said, and people totally misunderstand the Mass and communion. There's no place for personal flourish for the priest in the Mass. It's all prescribed. It's mudra. The hands move like this, the voice says this. And then in the moment of the dispensing of the communion wafer, the intention is for the person to have a transpersonal experience and become one with the Mass. That's the complete and the purpose of it. And so we go about it a different way. We take our seat comfortably upright. And we embrace the present moment. We embrace the present moment. The present moment is like this. We can remind ourselves of the refuges in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha, being awake. I wonder if you can hear the laughter. Tempted to open my door. Refuge in the Dharma and the way things actually are. And in the Sangha, the community of practice, the community of all life. To embrace life, we take a seat. We cease our outer activities. We settle in. We notice that the body sits here and that it breathes. It's so familiar. It's coming home. Sounds. We have sounds. We have breathing. Come home to the breathing. And allow awareness to touch and meet the sensations of each in-breath and each out-breath. There are, of course, often thoughts, plans, memories, anxieties. And there are sounds. In fact, I'm going to open the window so the sounds are more distinct. Just as when, let's say, there's sadness, how we intentionally turn and embrace the sadness. Embrace it and notice where it's existing in the body, noticing the thoughts. When there are sounds, we can actually put aside the breath and take hearing as our meditation object. Just as this voice comes out of nowhere, magically appears, so will the sound of the nail gun, perhaps the conversation and laughter. Just like the breath, each sound has a beginning and an ending. There is a sound which is present even in silence. For some people it gets loud and problematic. It's called tinnitus or tinnitus. But that sound, that high ringing sound, is an artifact. It's just part of having ears, having hearing. And in fact, in North India, there are hundreds of thousands of people who practice. Their primary object is the sound current. In our instance right now, there's plenty of sound. And we can notice liking or disliking, or neutrality. observing the space between sounds. They come and they go. And we might return to breathing. In which case the sounds move into the background. They still may capture awareness. The hammering, the nail gun is particularly attention grabbing. And our living system was designed in that way so that we turn toward the potential threat. And here there's no threat. There's sitting and breathing. And hearing. The pleasant sound of human beings talking and laughing. Safety. Returning to the present moment. Each breath has a beginning, middle, and ending. So does each thought. And it serves us well to remember. When awareness doesn't rest quietly on the coming and going of the breath, when it's even difficult to find the breath, it's helpful to have our list of the 5 hindrances. Is this a moment when there's a lot of desire, wanting, the mind leaning into a future? I want this. With this, I'd be satisfied, thinks the mind. Or if the mind is in aversion, disliking, resistance, the mind strikes against the object. Don't like this, don't like that. Or if the mind is in restlessness, agitation, worry, to see it, to know it as it is. Or if the mind is in sloth and torpor, dullness, low energy, observing that for what it is. And the 5th hindrance, doubt, often difficult to see. It's doubt that keeps us from coming to practice. It's doubt that has us turn away and try to find satisfaction through various activities and consumptions. We say, oh, I forgot to practice. The primary treatment, the primary antidote for the hindrances is simple mindfulness. To see them for what they are. It's like weather in the mind. Sometimes it's difficult to let go of the outer world. That's one of the reasons for sitting very still. Sometimes almost taking a vow of stillness. I will relinquish the seeking of satisfaction externally and devote myself to in-breathing and out-breathing. I will devote myself to the development of awareness of sounds, of thoughts, of mood. Sometimes the mind falls into rather deep trances. The whole story of the self is here in memories and plans and opinions. We approach all of these conditioned phenomena with great kindness. I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am in this moment. That says a lot. It's not, I intend to improve myself as fast as I possibly can. Whenever I discover myself to be hurting, suffering in some way, it is my intention to hold myself in sweet, loving compassion. So there is an intention of presence, a curiosity about the permanence and impermanence of things. A willingness to accept life on its own terms. And please now bringing awareness into the buttocks, the pressure with the body against the cushion or the floor, into the hands, into the face. Allowing the ear door to be open to receive whatever arises. Thump the thump thump. Thump the thump thump. It's the signature pattern of this amazing young man as he applies shingles. Practicing his art. And in a moment there will be the usual 2 gongs. The first one is a call to awakening. It's like the cry that comes in Islamic countries that comes 5 times a day from the top of the tower. Wake up, you are one with God. You are one with life. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Let us come together in prayer. Well, I'm hoping I'll be able to hear something from you. I'll need to do a little fiddling in a moment. I had a computer crash. So I look up and I'm completely frozen. You were all functioning perfectly. Actually, Tamara, I was very grateful to your fan because your fan let me know that there was a live picture coming from your end. So let me see if I can get my headset to work. The wonderful tech fellow stood me up yesterday. Oh, that might sound like that's okay. Jim, would you say something? It's not okay. I have to be careful with my expletives. So this is on. Let me try just a little bit of fiddling here. I was disappointed when the fella didn't call me. So I'm in that one. Let me try this. What if I made it MacBook? Oh, what if I tried these? That worked. I'll try this. It worked at the beginning and then it quit. Jim? Ooh, yay. I don't know why that's working, but good. Let's make use of it. I guess that's the same with breathing. I don't know why it's working. Bye, Danny. So, Jim's teaching a Qigong poetry Jim Dalton day on Saturday from 9 to 2. And beyond that, let's not bother. Let's instead invite life to speak through you. Oh. Good. Oh my God, can you imagine how much hugging there would be? It's enough to make a person want to go. Hugging would not be compulsory, of course. And masks will be allowed. By then we may really want masks again. Jeez. Don't know. I, in fact, learned yesterday of 2 young people who, fully vaccinated, both got COVID. So it seems as though that is a real possibility. So what's up, my friends? What? Oh, Leanne says, yeah, my sister, fully vaccinated. Quite sick with COVID. Yikes. I am of the nature to age. I have not gone beyond aging. I am of the nature to sicken. I have not gone beyond sickness. I am of the nature to die. I've not gone beyond dying. All that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. I'm the owner of my karma, my intentional actions, heir to my karma, born of my karma, abide supported by my karma. Whatever karma I shall do, of this I shall be the heir. Thus should we frequently recollect, said the Buddha. Sickness is real. It's not an accident. There have always been coronaviruses and plagues, and not to mention floods, fires. It's unstable where we live, the human realm. And I guess it would be good to have some conclusion from that, wouldn't it? Let's live mindfully and lovingly and caringly and dance while we still have feet. Robert. Hello. The context of, oh, oh, did I say that? Huh. I might have to make it up. I don't remember saying that. Well, though, though, well, sure. When sometimes it's so clear. The way home is through being awake. Right? It's not through satisfying this or that desire. It's not through having some wonderful altered state. It's not through some achievement. It's not through, finding the right person. Or changing the person one is with to be the right person. That really doesn't work. It's about being here and accepting this is how it is, and about being awake. And so one of the reasons we use substances is because the present moment is not acceptable to us. Right? I know that if I ingest this or smoke this or whatever, that if I do this, it will create a state of consciousness which is pretty predictable, relatively predictable with most substances. And it'll be better and more pleasant than the one I'm in now, we believe. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. In the long run, it isn't. And so doubt, we can fall off our practice. We can decide to go back to old coping strategies because we have a doubt, a serious doubt attack. So does that make sense? Yeah. That fifth precept, I undertake the training of the heart to refrain from the use of, for doing things that dull the mind. And one of the focuses of that, of course, is these. But also, just a second, I have this wonderful app. It's called We Croak. 5 times a day, it gives me a message, and it says, "Don't forget you're going to die." Open for a quote. And the quote this time is, "We be but corpses dressed in frocks, who cannot speak to birds or rocks." From Gary Snyder. That's a nice one from this morning. Pops up randomly during the day. So, using substances to alter our consciousness is ancient for humans. In fact, there's a really good anthropological theory that civilization was created in the Middle East by people who discovered that if they put fruit juices into gourds and stayed with them, they could have alcohol. So therefore, they had to start staying still and not be nomadic because it was the only sensible thing to do. But we know that severe alcoholism was common in Mesopotamia. And why? And why is it so common now? And why are there 2 rows of wines at New Seasons? 2 rows. It's a huge amount. Could there possibly be that many different flavors? And in Oregon during the pandemic, marijuana sales went up 70% over the year before, and alcohol doubled. Why? Well, we really, reality is difficult. I almost said, I have to be careful. I almost said reality sucks, but probably I shouldn't say that. But reality is very difficult. So we want to distract ourselves. I went to see, oh dear, with my stepson Adrian, we went to see, it's not Catwoman, I forget, it's 2 hours of action and totally predictable, really a ridiculous movie. They spent millions of dollars on it. We watched the credits because at the end they always show you some image from the next movie, and the credits went on forever, making this really trivial thing. But I was completely outside myself in this other world, or mostly outside myself, for about an hour and 45 minutes. Very successful. So we keep coming back to the present. We fall into our trances and our compulsions and addictions and this and that, and then we wake up and we realize, oh, right, the way home is in. I learned that you're friends with Corey, Robert. You're the Robert I've heard about for years. Our best friend Robert, they say. And I didn't say what I just did about substances to make anybody feel guilty. It helps us to be conscious of how we're using them. And my experience has been over time that they've diminished and diminished and diminished. And they make occasional flare-ups. But as a way of life, they gradually fall away because they're really not needed anymore. We must... what was his name? Andrew Weil. Andrew Weil, the health food guru. Most of us know him as that. That's when he became really famous. But before he was the health food guru, he was probably the single most experienced person in psychotropic medications from around the world. He went off with the shamans here and there and all over the world. And he wrote a book, which is a good read. I always recommend it to people who are working with substances. And it's called The Natural Mind. And in The Natural Mind, he makes one point again and again and again, which is ordinary reality is painful. There's a lot of dukkha. And so we must have altered states. We must have altered states. And if you look around the world, what we do, we turn on music and we dance and we use substances and we travel and because ordinary reality is difficult. And what's a way to get an altered state? The state of ease and peace and concentration and mindfulness and equanimity? Meditation practice. It's cheap too. Good morning. Do you say Cody? Cody. Code. Yes. Mm. The Buddhist teachings, there are non-dual teachings from the Buddha, but the foundational teachings, the Theravada Buddhist teachings, start with a particular premise. When a person would come to the Buddha, they'd come with their questions or their anguish, and but let's say they came with lots of questions, lots of heady questions, theoretical questions. He would always steer them back and say, well, are you suffering? Well, yes, my child died, or yes, I have I have a mood disorder, I have a lot of anxiety, or my career isn't going right. And so then the way these teachings approach the problem is, okay, you have an experience of a self which is suffering, so let's examine that self so fully that you have the experience, you actually have the experience that the self is a fabrication. It's a flourishing that we do, and in fact you are the all. And along the way we become more loving and more generous and kind and so on. And we practice that. The non-dual teachings come at it from a radically different perspective. Ultimately, it's the same thing. The non-dual teachings say, this is from my teacher Matt Flickstein, actually, right now, say, you're already awake. Believe nothing to the contrary. Just be awake. And in the other case, one practices for months, weeks, years, and one is transformed. And in the non-dual case, if one is actually practicing, one sits and observes reality from, I'm already awake. And they both have to do with a movement towards simply being present with what is. Except the non-dual say you're already there. And I'm much less articulate in the non-dual vocabulary because I have devoted 50 years to the Theravadan practices and only a bit to the non-dual. And among the non-dual teachers, there's Krishnamurti, and you've probably explored some of them, Cody. Is that helpful at all, that response? Mm-hmm. There are, funny, I'm so bad with names. I was going to say, there's several non-dual teachers that you could look up on YouTube, and they're marvelous, but I'm not remembering their names right now. Yeah. And everything is a dream. So the hindrances are a dream, but we still have to deal with them. Actually, I could do this. Yeah, it's a little after 8, but I have time to read this. Let me find it. Where would it be? It would be here. Under Matt Flickstein. Here it is. I think I want to move it over to this screen. There we are. I'll get you back in the belt. No, I can't do that. Okay. This is a letter. Not a letter. It's a little article by Matt Flickstein. So I invite you to just let this flow over you. The first paragraph is a beautiful summary of the Buddhist teachings. Living from a non-dual perspective. Everything that arises disappears. Whatever is born dies. Nothing escapes the cycle of birth and death. It is important for us to directly and experientially realize that there is never a point in time when something exists and is not in the process of becoming something other than it was just a moment before. All suffering comes from clinging, trying to hold on to that which is perpetually changing, and all clinging comes from delusion. We must learn to live in the clarity and space of non-clinging, neither grasping nor pushing anything away. The key is just to be present with what arises from moment to moment, without holding or resisting. At the same time, it is essential not to fall into the trap of denying the relative existence of our psychophysical organism and the world of experience it presents. Compassion is the willingness to play in the field of dreams even though you're awake. Approach life with joy, enthusiasm, love, and an open heart. Take delight in the manifestations of life. It is all a play of consciousness. And it really is all play. If something appears serious or burdensome, even death, then we are lost in delusion. The field of dreams is this world of the senses with all its myriad forms. Being awake is the direct knowing that there is no one who suffers, no one who is born, and no one who dies. It is the five aggregates that are born and die. Who we are has never been born and never dies. In actuality, there is no one who is expressing compassion to anyone else. It's all part of the play. The world is our mirror. There's only consciousness rising and falling along with its objects. It is all selfless. Whatever we see as being real is a projection of our own mind. It is where we are stuck. It's where our mind is stuck or identified with the illusion. Nothing exists, not even nothing. Existence and non-existence are both concepts. Not holding anywhere is freedom beyond measure. We must die to each moment and allow life to express itself through us and as us. Our lives may not turn out the way in which the ego has imagined, but when we surrender to the truth of what is, we will find freedom beyond measure, as surely as the river finds its way to the sea. When we move beyond the dualistic world, there is a rebirth into the deathless. We finally come home to a place that we have never really left. I will put that on my blog. I think it may be there already, but I'll put it up there after we are finished today. There's a very beautiful non-dual song, prayer, something, at robertbeatty.com. If you go there and you scroll down to near the very bottom, there's a video, a music video and poetry. Myself, third Chinese patriarch of Zen, a beautiful non-dual statement that I highly recommend. It's gorgeous photography behind it, and I have carried on my person actually for more than 35 years that little document, and I've instructed my family that should I ever be in coma, they could just read that over and over again. And actually, my daughter read it to me when I was out to lunch on drugs with my brain surgery a year and a half ago. It's the most calming, beautiful piece of document that I know, because it basically says it's all just like this. There's nowhere to get to. It's all fine. There's no danger. There's nothing you're going to lose. There's nothing you're going to hold on to. There's nothing to hold on to. Pamela. Oh, it's a little article by Matt Flickstein that I will put. You wouldn't find it anywhere. It was a personal correspondence. Yeah, but I'll put it in on my blog, which you get to by going to robertbeatty.com, and at the top there's several options, and one of them is blog, and that's where you'll find it. And I promise I'll do it before I get up from this seat, because if I don't do that, it never happens. It sure is a delight. I had a funny thought. You are eye candy. It's such a pleasure to look out and to see your presence here. Would you, that's just, for those of you that have your cameras on, would you raise your hand if you don't live in Portland? Oh, so quite a few. Had you live in Portland? So there's a lot of you that I wouldn't see at the park. That's a bummer. Hello, Leanne, walking out in the sun somewhere. And hello, Jilly. Is it warm in the Yukon? Warm for you. Oh my God, that's balmy. Plants even grow. Have you got your greenhouse really working? Do you use it? Yeah. Oh, I'd like to see it. I'll send you a picture of my garden. Or did I already? It looks like Jurassic Park. It's ridiculous. The problem is I put so many amendments into our garden, like 2 inches of compost, and it turns out that each tomato costs only $1.95. But the tilth, the richness of you throw a seed on it and it just explodes. It's cool. Compost and fertilizer and water. Well, friends, anything else anyone would like to share before we head off into our adventures of today? The day that we have no idea what's going to happen in. We have our plans, but hello, Sky. Oh, he's a trip. Which one? The man who mistook his wife for a hat? Oh, I don't know that I ever knew that book. But he's got a book called Hallucinations? Oh. Ah. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Uh-huh. Well, it's a big thing to reflect on, and as far as I understand it now, there are altered states and there's reality. And we can create in meditation really remarkable altered states. We can open to amazing altered states in meditation. And of course, some of them that we open to are more love than we ever dreamed possible, more compassion than we ever dreamed possible, and equanimity. And so what ultimately become our natural ground of being, or are revealed as our natural ground of being, at first when we encounter them, they seem very much like an altered state. I experienced way back in India, it was my conversion moment. I experienced what I now understand to be simply a quiet mind as stunning, life-changing, that I could suddenly feel my toes, and a thought would come up and I could notice it. And that state of just being and being present was shockingly new. And there are hallucinatory states, and amazing things happen, and some of them not very pleasant in meditation. And over time, what emerges is the capacity to simply be present with what is, and one is right here. And one isn't any longer seeking altered states. Is the whole thing about seeking enlightenment is something that we do until we don't. And then we realize that the journey and the direction it's all just simply being here. And it's not about fantasies, or it's not about imbuing fantasies with lots of energy and getting away somewhere. It's simply being awake and present. Is that making sense? Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm. I think of it differently, which is that everything other than being present is an altered state. That the ground of our being, the presence, that mindfulness is not an altered state. Mindfulness is the ultimate non-altered state. It's just being here. It's an altered. They're trance states. Yeah. And the more awake we become, the more we notice them as trance, and they're useful trance states. But we realize that that's a thought in the field, and it then goes away. And sometimes we imbue a thought. Well, sometimes the thought comes up as a complex, and a psycho-emotional complex from, let's say, from childhood trauma. And then that complex comes up, and we're in an altered state. We're actually a 5-year-old kid whose father died or something for a while, and that then affects the way we speak, and those are profound altered states. That's one of the reasons that meditation, when we go deep, the meditation begins to reveal these altered states, and sometimes we go into them for days, and then we find our way back out. Then we find our feet again, so to speak. Oh yeah, that was an altered state, all right. Yeah, darling, wake up. She did that in many ways over the years. Right. Wake up. It's wonderful to be here with all of you. Well, I should go because I have an appointment. I'm going to visit my 95-year-old mentor from Well, from earlier in my life this afternoon, or this morning at 11. His wife tells me his dementia is getting galloping, so I want to go see him again. So let's go out on. Oh, there's Aaron. Do we have a youngster with you? Nope. Oh, okay. Thanks. Let's go out on Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam, and I will post the Matt Flickstein reading immediately. And I will look forward to being with you tomorrow. I hope we all make it to tomorrow to be together. Actually, I just remembered Achan Amaro, after a retreat with him, 7 of us, were sitting with him in the little house, the teacher's cabin at Cloud Mountain. And one of his students, and we were talking, it was wonderful being with him. And one of his students who was driving him to the airport came in and was quite intense, saying, "We have to go now, otherwise you'll miss your plane." And he ended our meeting by saying, "Well, everyone, this has been wonderful. And if we never see each other again, or if we die, hasn't it been grand?" How socially inappropriate to talk about death at that moment. All right, ready? Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Please unmute yourselves if you want. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Goodbye, lovely people. See you soon. Have a beautiful day. Goodbye, Bruce. I saw your hand there. Oh, there you are. Amen. Goodbye, Denise. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here, Jimbo. All right. Oh, of course. Sure. Whatever you need. Here we go. Bye, Had. Goodbye, dear friends on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for being with us. You can always join us on Zoom